march. The empire's on the run. Alex Jones and the GCN Radio Network.
Let's talk about the real war on women. First wave feminism was a noble cause, but modern feminists? Well, instead of fighting for, say, paid and protected maternity leave, they want to ban words, shirts, and manspreading. Come on. That's cultural Marxism, which asserts that culture and language is responsible for oppressing women and not the state. The truth is, the state encourages gender wars. It's a divide and conquer tactic designed to keep us fighting amongst ourselves. In fact, the feminist movement was hijacked by the political class to exploit women. As the late Aaron Russo revealed, the Rockefellers bankrolled feminism, and not because they had any interest in women's rights, but because women in the workforce was the ultimate trifecta. The state collects more tax dollars, children are indoctrinated at an earlier age, and the traditional family structure destroyed. Leanne McAdoo reporting for Infowars.com.
Hi, I'm Alex Jones. When I got on air 20 years ago, I weighed 180 pounds. I lift weights 5 days a week. I could swim 2-3 miles. Then I discovered the New World Order, the globalists, their agenda. I started an Access television show. I was so dedicated to my work and hanging around with radio guys that I began drinking. I began smoking cigars and then even cigarettes. I transformed from looking like a white Bruce Lee to looking like a Jabba the Hutt. So I began a journey 5 years ago to shed the almost 100 pounds. I started taking Super Male Vitality and saw dramatic results in just a few weeks. When I added to the mix the key products developed by Dr. Group for InfoWarsLife.com, the results were incredible. Take the InfoWarsLife.com challenge today at InfoWarsLife.com or give our crew a call. They can answer all your questions or tell you about any of the specials at 888-253-3139.
In the near future.
When you realize how fake it all is, the football, the basketball.
Alert. Security alert. This is Homeland Security. Analysis. InfoWars building independent media operations.
We let the worst people get control and tell us that we are the ones responsible.
Prime Directive. Discredit Alex Jones.
Jones is the wildly popular conspiracy theorist.
A popular conspiracy theory talk show called InfoWars.
Alex Jones is now in an Austin jail.
These people are assaulting us.
Targeting of patriots engaged.
They are never going to stop. They're never going to deviate from their program until we stop them.
Block free iPhone app at Infowars.com. Block free podcast and video feed. Imperative. Destroy Prison Planet TV.
You gotta set your eye on the enemy, not worry about what propaganda they put out. Intellectually, it's begun. You can feel it.
Defending the Republic from enemies, foreign and domestic. It's Alex Jones.
Welcome back to the Alex Jones Show. I'm David Knight, your host. I'm going to take your phone calls if you want to call in and talk about the subjects we've covered today. The number is 800-259-9231. That's 800-259-9231. Now, in the last segment with Leanne, we touched on the different ways that corporations are using the government to force you to buy their product, to prevent you from making decisions about your health, about your family's health, removing your informed consent, saying that they're going to come after homeopathy, saying that they're going to, well, as Marco Rubio wants to do, and Chris Christie, they're going to come after even those states where they've allowed medical marijuana. Marco Rubio went on with Hugh Hewitt. I guess that's where the Republican candidates go on to brag about how they're going to create war, step up the police state. That seems to be the place where they roll those things out. And so he's talking to Hugh Hewitt. And he says, well, Hugh Hewitt says, a lot of people are criticizing the president for not enforcing immigration laws, but he's also not enforcing drug laws. What do we do? And Rubio says, yes. Well, I think we need to enforce our federal laws. Yeah, let's start with the Constitution. Let's start with the fact that you don't get to just prohibit whatever you want to. You don't have that power. Everyone recognized when they did the 18th Amendment, they realized that the government did not have the power to ban alcohol. But Rubio says, now, states do have a right to do what they want. They don't agree with it, but they have their rights. They do? States have rights? Well, actually, individuals have rights, and states do have some jurisdictional authority under the 10th Amendment, and that's why this is legal as well. They're exercising a constitutional right. The federal government is usurping a right that they don't have in terms of banning this. He says, but they don't have the right to write a federal policy as well. See, the federal government, in Rubio's mind, is above the states. It's above the individual. It's not a servant of the states. It's not a co-power share of the states. It's not a servant of the people. It's over the people. He says they shouldn't be in the business of legalizing additional intoxicants. You hear that? Additional intoxicants. Because we've already got alcohol legalized, right? Because he says, for the primary reason, when you legalize something, you're sending a message to young people, it can't be that bad. Because if it was that bad, it wouldn't be legal. So I guess because we have legal alcohol, it's okay for young people to have alcohol in this country, isn't it? No, that's not the way it is. We do have a lot of people when every year when college begins, you'll see articles about some new co-ed that drinks themselves to death. Some guy or girl at a college, they go to a party and first time they've been away from home, so they drink so much alcohol they die. They overdose on it. You don't see that happening with pot. We need to understand there's a difference between abuse and use. We need to understand there's a difference between vice and crime. Lysander Spooner pointed that out. He said, you know, crime is something you do that harms other people. Vice is something you do that harms yourself. Government cannot stop vice. If it tries to stop vice, it only corrupts itself. It can never stop it. And we've seen for 40 years this argument that you're going to send the message that this stuff is okay. We're not sending the message it's okay. What we're saying is that, you know, this whole gateway argument, that it's a gateway drug, this whole reefer madness nonsense that's being sold to us by people like Rubio, what we're saying is that the war on drugs is a gateway to tyranny. Medical marijuana is not a gateway to harder drugs. But this is, and we have seen how it has been with the SWAT teams, with the suspension of due process. But of course, Chris Christie now is kind of sitting on the fence. He kind of moderated this a little bit when he was confronted by a New Jersey marijuana activist. Again, yesterday was 4/20, so that's the day that I guess the New Jersey weed man came out. I've actually interviewed Ed Fortune, the New Jersey weed man. It was a very interesting interview. I interviewed him not so much because of the marijuana issue, but because of the effective way that he used jury nullification. See, we need to nullify the federal government's abuses and overreaches of power by attacking them from the outside. And jury nullification is the way that you can stop federal abuse of power and the way that you can stop state abuse of power. And what the New Jersey weed man did was he had one trial. He pulled up the New Jersey law that said that a jury has the right to judge not only the facts of the case, but whether or not it's a just law and whether or not the way that it's being applied is just. And so he pulled up the state constitution, and the judge told him, he said, take that down. If you put that up again, I'm going to throw you in jail for contempt. But they had already seen it. And he knew, see, he couldn't get a lawyer to represent him, so he represented himself. He knew that at least half of the people, he said 60% of the people, did not agree with the drug laws for marijuana particularly was what he was there for. So he figured that they would he would get at least one person out of the 12. That's what I call the 8% solution. That's the way we need to shut this thing down. But anyway, he did get a hung jury. It was 7 voted for acquittal, but they came after him a second time, and the second time he went to a judge that allowed him to leave that up and show the jurors that, yes, according to New Jersey law, see, the first judge didn't want the jury to even know what New Jersey's law was about jurors. He didn't want the jurors to know what their duty was. Not only what their right as jurors was, but what their duty was. So when he was allowed to leave that up, they acquitted him 12-0, and they couldn't come after him again, even though the amount that he had was about a pound. I mean, I think it's a really large amount. Anyway, so he pulls up and he kind of he uses a bullhorn on Christie as Christie's walking out of his house and asks him if he's going to veto legislation to decriminalize marijuana. And Christie, why are you still locking people up? And he goes, well, I'm not throwing people in jail anymore. So I don't know. Christie has also said with Rubio that he wants to ignore what the voters in the states have said. He wants to ignore what the state legislatures have said, and he wants to reinforce prohibition. So we'll see whether or not that happens or not. Just a couple more things, and I'm going to go to your calls. Truth Raider in Oregon will be the first one coming up. In terms of these political figures, I do want to talk about the attacks that are coming on Rand Paul from Lindsey Graham and John McCain. I think it's interesting. I criticized Rand Paul yesterday and Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio for signing on to this fast track of these trade agreements. I don't think that they're free trade agreements. They're crony capitalist managed trade agreements being negotiated, as we said, in secret by corporate lobbyists. So I think that was a big mistake. But it is good that Rand Paul is bringing up things that other people are not talking about, substantive issues that are typically not even a part of the debate, and putting them up in a very thoughtful way for the American people to think about it. I really want to see him in the process because he really has brought this stuff up. But, of course, he's getting attacked by John McCain and by McCain's puppet, Lindsey Graham. And this is what Rand Paul had to say to their comments. Let's play that clip that what he had on Fox News.
Lindsey Graham said this about your worldview. Generally speaking, you have done more wrong than right. John McCain says you don't understand. You display this kind of naivete since you came to the Senate. What's going on there?
This comes from a group of people who've been wrong about every foreign policy issue over the last 2 decades. I'll give you a couple of examples where they support the president's foreign policy and I don't. They supported Hillary Clinton's war in Libya. They supported President Obama's bombing of Assad. They also support President Obama's foreign aid to countries that hate us. So if there's anyone who is the most opposed to President Obama's foreign policy, it's me. And these people who call loudest to criticize me are great proponents of President Obama's foreign policy. They just want to do it 10 times over. But I'm the only one actually standing up and saying the war in Libya was a mistake. The bombing of Assad would make ISIS stronger. The arms to the Islamic rebels would make ISIS stronger. So I'm really the one standing up to President Obama, and these people are essentially the lapdogs for President Obama, and I think they're sensitive about that. Well,
yeah, I think it was interesting when Marco Rubio came out. He was kind of angling for Hillary Clinton and saying that he was the guy who was the new young guy. So, you know, Hillary Clinton is going to be your female choice if you want a New World Order puppet, and Marco Rubio is putting himself out as the young choice if you want a New World Order puppet. But, you know, really, he may be young, but his ideas have been are failed ideas that have been tried for decades unsuccessfully, and that's the point that Rand Paul was making. Is that the same foreign policy that we see from Obama, same foreign policy you're going to get from Hillary Clinton, except you may get more of it. You know, they may, instead of, you know, trying to get into 6 countries, maybe they'll start wars with 10 countries. Maybe they'll start a war with Russia. I don't know. These guys are truly dangerous. John McCain, Lindsey Graham. It's absolutely amazing that anybody would even pay attention to these guys. I can't believe that they can get reelected. It's just amazing to me. As Paul said, why did we ever go to Libya in the first place? Every time we've toppled a secular dictator, a secular strongman, we've gotten chaos and the rise of radical Islam. The other thing he had to say was, he said, it's time for the GOP to defend the whole Bill of Rights. Absolutely. Absolutely. Defend the whole Bill of Rights. And that's why it's important for Rand Paul to be there, I believe. Like I've said many times, I don't think that we're going to fix the situation in Washington by sending a Mr. Smith there to straighten everything out. But I think it's important that we have somebody who's going to bring up these issues so they can be talked about at a national level. And, of course, he also talked about the fact that Jessica Lynch, who is the nominee by Obama for replacing Eric Holder, is all about civil asset forfeiture. And we spent a lot of time talking about that last hour, so I'm not going to go back into that again. But again, we need to look at the entire Bill of Rights. I want to go to your calls right now. Let's go to Truth Raider in Oregon. Truth Raider, go ahead.
Hi, David. How are you today?
Doing good.
Well, this is my take on Jane Helm. I think what is going on, and I hope I'm right about this, my gut tells me that this is an exercise and a practice against the radical movement from the south from Mexico trying to regain their claim to the 7 southern states as Aztlan. And I think, yeah, there's many other factors are involved, but my gut feeling is that the troops are going there and doing this drill in order to try to squelch this potential civil war situation. Best way I can describe it.
Well, I don't know. I think I haven't heard anybody in the government express any concern about the Aztlan movement. As a matter of fact, I've seen a lot of people cozy up to La Raza which really means the race. They're the ones who are really pushing that. And I've heard officials like Nancy Pelosi say we just have two communities. It just happens to have a border running through it, but it doesn't really matter.